Good morning, Year 7. Welcome to another lesson on identity poetry. Your do now today is on the screen there. When you are older and you move out of your house, how will you feel, do you think? And how will your parents feel? Give you a clue as to the content of this poem, but just write a quick response. That's 2 minutes there, please. Then on to the next slide. The poem we're looking at today is called Mother Any Distance, and it's by Simon Armitage. For this lesson you're going to need a pen, your exercise book and paper, some coloured pens and pencils, a copy of the poem which will of course be attached to Classcharts, and also don't forget to pause the video, PowerPoint, whatever it is that you're looking at it on, when you need to do the tasks. Today's poem is Mother Any Distance by Simon Armitage, and that's the title. Okay, we're going to read the poem. It's on the next slide, and obviously you've got it printed out from the attachment on Classcharts. It's full of imagery, this poem, and I want you to try to visualize the images Armitage creates as you read it, and then answer the questions below. What is the poem about? Who is the speaker talking to, and why? And here it is. Read along as I read it. Mother, any distance greater than a single span requires a second pair of hands. You come to help me measure windows, pelmets, doors, the acres of the walls, the prairies of the floors. You at the zero end, me with the spool of tape, recording length, reporting meters, centimeters back to base, then leaving up the stairs, the line still feeding out, unreeling years between us, anchor, kite. I spacewalk through the empty bedrooms, climb the ladder to the loft, to breaking point where something has to give. Two floors below, your fingertips still pinch the last 1/100th of an inch. I reach towards a hatch that opens on an endless sky to fall or fly. Here's a couple of responses to the questions that you had on our first reading of the poem. What is the poem about? In Mother Any Distance, the narrator asks his mother to come and help him measure his new house. It is suspected that he might be moving house soon, and so needs his mother to help him with measuring, holding the tape while he walks away. The narrator is looking forward to being independent, but is also worried about it. And then who is the speaker talking to and why? Armitage, the speaker, is talking to his mother. Perhaps he's looking for reassurance. He is directly addressing her for help. So your responses hopefully were something like that. If they weren't, then put these responses into your books. Now, read the poem again, and I want you to highlight all the imagery in the poem. Now, remember, imagery is when a word or a phrase causes a picture to appear in your head. So anything that does that. So I've got a couple of examples here. Any distance greater than a single span requires a second pair of hands. So the second pair of hands is an image right there. If you struggle, look at the next slide, and I've given you some images to find. Okay, here we are. There's an anchor, a hatch looking out onto the sky there, if you're a bit confused about what that one is next to the anchor. A spaceman drifting alone in space, a tape measure, and a young person holding a kite. So go through the poem and highlight where you find all those images. And as I said at the start, don't forget to stop the tape whenever you need to do the tasks. Now I want you to choose one of the images that you found and explain the purpose or the effect of the image. You know, what effect it's created, what has it made you think? And once you've done that, try to identify as a language or a structure technique used. For example, here's one I've done for the single span. This is the distance greater than his own hands, showing he needs his mother to help him and her support is still vital to him. He doesn't feel he can be too far from her yet. The alliteration perhaps highlights his uncertainty of being so far from his mother. There we are. So I want you to find pick one of your images and explain the purpose and the effect, and see if there is a language or structure technique that you can identify in there, explain its effect as well. And that will take you 10 minutes. Then on to the next slide. I want you to make some notes on your poem now. I want you to pick 4 of these and annotate your poem with them. I won't read them all out, but stop the presentation here and pick 4 of these and annotate your poem with them. Now we've looked at language there, we've looked into the language, images and metaphors and similes and so on, if you can find them. And now we're going to be looking at structure for this slide, which is going to take you 10 minutes. Structure, as we all know, is things like punctuation, what type of form the poem takes, short and long sentences, those types of things. So I want you to answer these 4 questions over the next 10 minutes. And hopefully you've got something like this. What does the ellipses represent? Ellipses could signify a passing of time, indicating that the final line of the poem refers to some time after the rest of the poem. It could also represent a change in attitude and emotion as the speaker talks about reaching for an endless sky, as if they are ready now to become independent, regardless of whether they fall or fly. The form of the poem is a sonnet, 14 lines long. Sonnets are associated with love. They normally love poetry. So it's a loving relationship he has with his mother is the significance of that. So there is an extra line, the 15th line. Why? What is the effect? It makes you focus on the last line, highlights a contrast between fall and fly, and emphasises worry about what will happen when he leaves. What does the rhyming couplet at the end show? And a rhyming couplet, as we know, is 2 lines that rhyme, but crucially they have to be, if you took them away from the poem, they'd still make sense. Shows that they will both always be close and connected in some way. So you've got 4 statements here. Which one of them do you think best sums up the poem? The poem is about moving from dependence to independence. The poem depicts a move from present to future. The poem focuses on a relationship moving from being close to being apart. The poem portrays a shift from security to risk. So, you know, you could conceivably pick one of those, but I want you to pick the one that you think sums up the poem best, and just a brief couple of sentences as to why that is. Just 2 minutes on that. This is the task that I want you to upload onto Classcharts for me to have a look at, please, Year 8 and Year 7 rather. Sorry, and I have been incredibly impressed by the level of work you're doing. So well done, and keep it coming. But you're to choose one. When it says 1 there, look, Armitage presents a mother-son relationship which is moving from dependence to independence. Armitage presents a mother-son relationship which goes from being close to being apart. Armitage uses a mother-son relationship to show the anxiety surrounding moving from feelings of security to feelings of risk. I want you to pick one of those. And then next, choose a technique to comment on: contrast, extended metaphor, ellipses, an effect that's been created in the poem. And then remember to include evidence to support your analysis. You could use this wording, which is depicted, portrayed, presented, and then develop your explanation. And I've got some sentence starters here. The clever amongst you will have noticed that that is essentially a PEAL paragraph. The top statement that you choose is your point. Then you choose a technique, which is your evidence. Then number 3 is your analysis, and then number 4 is your link. All right, so that's 15 minutes to do that. And this is, I say, the bit that I want uploaded onto Classcharts. Good luck with that, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much, Year 7.